Dr. Mahajan is one of the pioneers of imaging technology in India. He's the founder of Mahajan Imaging, which is he's a founder of Mahajan Imaging, which is one of the pioneers of imaging in around this area of the world. And he's a graduate from Maulana Azad Medical College in Delhi, and then followed up. He went to post-graduation in radio diagnosis from PGMI-ER, PGI Chandigarh. Now, his credentials, there are many of them. He was awarded one of the highest civilian national honors of Padma Shri in 2002 for his contribution to the field of radiology and imaging. Also, he is a former president of the Indian Radiology and Imaging Association of India. He has published several papers on clinical radiography and many topics, medical topics. In addition to whatever I could read honestly and talk, he is a great human being and a very approachable, very nice friend. And I get to meet him during Nat Health platform. So I'm so happy to be introducing you, Dr. Mahajan. And on the other side, sir, we are a group of 100 people presently online, and look forward to hear from you on what do you think is going to be the new shape of healthcare in industry in the present times, or maybe after these times have passed. So over to you, Dr. Mahajan. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Manish, for that kind introduction. Sometimes you want, I would have loved it if my mother were here and hearing it. She would have felt nice. And sometimes when we hear it, we feel कि हमारे बारे ही बात हो रही है. So thank you very much for inviting me. It's both a pleasure as well as an honor to, interact with so many bright young minds through these troubled times. These are troubled times for the whole world. And in fact, this is one of those, rare occasions that, the entire world seems to be facing the same problem. And really, if you see, otherwise it's always someone is pulling one way, the other is pulling the other. By and large, everyone is together, except maybe China is being vilified and maybe facing the brunt of all the emotional outbursts of the rest of the world, because they have been blamed for this pandemic. And frankly, if we start from the beginning of when it started, it appears now that it started sometime in the second week of November. Now, there are questions as to whether it started from the wet market in Wuhan, or more increasingly, people are investigating whether this was, lab developed virus, which kind of, because of some screw up, it escaped and then infected. But whatever be the case, one thing which cannot absolve China of is the fact that now it is more or less sure that it started in November. And it's only around the end of December that they let the world know that something is wrong. They may not themselves have known at that point of time how bad it was. Also, it seems that person-to-person transmission had already started, and that they were aware of it. And that's where, whether it came from the lab, whether they did it deliberately, whether they did not, fact of the matter that for 6 weeks, they kept it quiet. And it's only when, this brave young doctor, an ophthalmologist, wrote on social media that some bloody new kind of pneumonia is there, that it came into public domain. And he was actually vilified. He was, in fact, taken to task, and unfortunately, he was only 34 years old. He also died from this disease. So some blame has to be apportioned China's way, especially for the delayed, information, for incorrect information, and then what we saw was the response of various governments in different parts of the world. WHO came to know, and actually on 31st of January or 1st of February, they brought out a serious kind of advisory in which they said that there is this new disease, new pneumonia that has come, and this is of very serious risk in China and of high risk, very high risk and high risk to the rest of the world. Now, let me give you the figures at that time so that you know how quickly this has spread. On 31st of January, China had about 11,900 cases. The rest of the world had only 68. So this, we are talking 1st of February, 31st January. So just 2 months and 3 weeks ago, there were only 68 cases in the world in different countries. And that's when actually WHO, which is also being blamed a lot for not having done much and of actually having sided with China during these months. I don't know how true that is, but on 1st of Feb, this advisory came. Different governments in different parts of the world responded very differently. You saw Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, South Korea respond in a particular way. And you saw, the Western part of the world respond in a very different way. So, frankly, when there were 68 cases, some people took it seriously and some did not. Thankfully, if we talk about India, actually when on 7th of January, the first meeting was held by WHO to say that there's something, we don't know what it is, but it's unusual. It's a new thing that has happened. Actually, the Indian government had a meeting of the health ministry the very next day. So on the 8th of January, they had a meeting to say that let's get prepared. This seems to be something new. Tab tak to kuch pata nahi tha. There was not much that was known. But they took that proactive move. And from the 17th of January or 18th of January, in 3 airports of the country, they started screening people who were coming in. Screening was basically temperature, but by that time you didn't know what it was. So the Indian government was very proactive. And that's why. And then subsequently, you've seen the measures they took that, in February, they started the quarantine. They started checking everyone. So across all airports of India, all the ports, so everyone was being checked. And also what we hear from those who came in, that they were very surprised that even on Sundays, government officials were coming to their home to find out or ringing up कि आपको fever तो नहीं हो गया, कोई खांसी तो नहीं है. This was an unusual response. We generally tend to say government कुछ करती नहीं है, but I think in this episode we have to thank the government that it took decisions, and also the hardest decision, which was, to go into a lockdown for 3 weeks when actually we had at that time less than 500 cases.
Right.
Okay. So now Italy Spain, US, Germany to begin with, France, they were all bindas. You know, even in February, my son lives in Spain. He lives in Valencia, he and his wife. And, you know, we were doing so much here, and there they were having festivals and protest marches and this and that. So life was going on as normal, you know, even in February. And it is really, even in March, February to chodo, even in March, there was now one of the worst affected cities apart from New York is Madrid in Spain. And there they had, you know, they normally have a festival in March, which is very famous. People come from across the world, 120,000 people, 1.2 lakh
Oh,
congregated. And, you know, Europe is like one country. There are no borders. So people just drive in. So Italians, ye, wo, pata nahi kya kya. Then they were having Women's Day protest march, this march, that march. So those governments which did not respond adequately are now, unfortunately, facing the brunt of the attack. Their populations are dying. You know, we know about, you know, more than 1.5 lakh people are dead. And more than 20 lakh are, or maybe 21 lakh are affected.
yes.
And so I would say, and this is what even yesterday I said on Times Now, is that India seems to be in a good position. One, we started the lockdown on time. Before that, all people coming from outside were being quarantined first at their homes and then in government quarantines. So that helped. Contact tracing, that if someone has the disease or someone has come from abroad and developed the disease, who are the people he met during those few days? That contact tracing, I think, has been very, very good. And the police is involved in it. They are ringing up people. They are trying to find out when did you meet. And so today we have, I think, about 17,000 cases. And out of 1.3 crores, that's nothing. You know, now we are hearing, and we've known all along, that many cases are asymptomatic. So even if we say it's 10 times that are asymptomatic, even then India would be at 1.7 lakh.
Yes.
If we say it is 100 times, we are still at 17 lakhs in a population of 1.3 crores. But these are just figures we are pulling out of thin air, just so that even if things were twice, thrice what we say,
Yeah.
the only problem with asymptomatic is that they don't know they are infected. And so they may be moving around in their family, friends, office, and spreading the disease, not knowing that they have it. And that's a problem. And that's where the lockdown will really, really help, because everyone is stuck to their own houses. And this is going to be, you know, when we started the lockdown, we knew there are asymptomatic cases, but we didn't know that the number may be so large. So now with 4 weeks of lockdown already done and 2 more weeks to go, I think that will give ample opportunity for these asymptomatics also to kind of become healed. And then we have the category of pre-symptomatic, that 2 to 3 days before someone develops symptoms, even in those who develop symptoms, they are infective. So for those 3 days, they don't know कि उनको होने वाला है, but they are infective. So that's where it will be very, very useful if people who stayed in their homes, उनको हुआ, पता भी नहीं चला, and वो ठीक हो.
Right.
So now how is it going to play out? I mean, these are all, you know, conjectures. The, you know, epidemiologists have have done mathematical models, they've used statistics. In fact, after the first 3 weeks of lockdown, they said that if no measures had been taken, ठीक है जी, सिर्फ हम पहले वाला ही करते तो 8 लाख केस हो जाते. And if we had followed all the other measures but not had a lockdown, it would have been about 1.2 lakh cases. So you can just imagine, and this is till 15th of April.
Right.
So you can imagine what a catastrophic situation has been warded off. Because when there is a sudden spike and so many cases come together, then the healthcare facilities get overwhelmed. So that currently what we are trying to do is keep the numbers at such a level that our healthcare facilities can cope with them. And thankfully, I can tell you, one, there has been no spike. Two, is that our numbers, if we compare the number of tests done to the number of positive, and tests till now have been basically being done either those who came from abroad and developed symptoms, or in close contacts, or in healthcare workers,
Right.
or in those who develop the illness. Even then, our numbers, today we've done about, till now, about 4 lakh tests in this country. Our pickup rate is 1:26. Whereas in the US, it's 1:4.
4.
4 टेस्ट करते हैं तो एक पॉजिटिव निकलता है. हमने 4 लाख टेस्ट किए तो हमारे 16,500 पॉजिटिव निकले. So and Italy may be 1:5, some may be 1:7. So, and also despite the fact that now we are ramping up the number of tests. On Saturday, I think we did 37,000 tests. And yet these numbers remain the same.
Right.
So that gives us hope that even because India has been accused of under-testing. Whereas what I say is that we've been doing targeted testing, we've been doing adequate testing, we've been doing testing which is as per our capability and our affordability. You know, affordability is a big.
Yes.
अब आप कहो कि नहीं जी सबका ही होना चाहिए. Can we afford it? Even if a test was to be 100 rupees into 1.3 crore kar lo, you know.
I do that.
So I think the ICMR and the government of India, by doing this targeted testing and focusing on those who are more likely to have the disease, we've been able to, one, identify, and two, do it. You know, you can only spread your sheet as long as your legs are. You should. And that's what has been done. And despite this targeted testing, we are positive 1:26. If we had done more larger testing in even the population, trying to find asymptomatic, then it may have been 1:100 or 1:500. Kya pata? Okay, can you follow what I'm saying? Any question, anyone? Anyone has a question?
No question, sir.
We are fine, sir. We are fine. Thank you.
Okay, great.
No,
So-
sir. Thank you.
Yeah. So how is it going to play out? When will this lockdown end? We hope it'll end on the 3rd. Have we flattened the curve? Not as yet. But definitely the speed with which the numbers were rising is reducing.
Slowing down, yes.
You would have all heard the Health Minister, Dr. Harshvardhan, say that our doubling rate is now 9.7 days. Okay. In the US, the doubling rate has been 1 day. कि आज 1 लाख हैं, कल 2 लाख हो जाएंगे. You know. So our doubling rate has also been increasing. which means the lockdown, which we are all suffering, some are enjoying, but it has actually helped. Okay. And then also there is this thing of under testing and so many are missed and all that. See, out of 100 cases who have COVID-19, 15 have disease which is serious enough that they need to come to the hospital, to be admitted in hospital. And 5% out of 100 are those who require ICU.
Right.
And out of them, 2 to 3% require a ventilator.
Ventilation.
Okay. Now, if we were to take this suggestion that, you know, हमने बहुत मिस किए हुए हैं, हमने टेस्ट पूरे नहीं किए, we are under reporting, then our hospitals should have been full.
Right.
Even our ICUs are not even half full. And people on ventilators across the country, I think are not in 3 figures.
Right.
Which is a fantastic situation to be in. Okay. But we still have to be very watchful. We have to be very cautious. We have to be very careful. We have to be very disciplined. That we don't lose this advantage that we got by an early lockdown by just, you know, अरे यार खुल गया. And चलो जी, आज वो friend के घर party हो रही है, आज वहाँ हो रही है. Please remember, we will still have to follow. अगर खुल भी जाता है, we will have to follow the norms that have been set of social distancing, of wearing a mask, of hand hygiene, of, you know, meeting as few people as possible. So where work from home is still possible, we should work from home. Because remember, we tend to live in joint families. And that we've seen in Italy, where also they have a joint family system.
Yes.
Italy में तो कोई 25% joint family होंगी, हमारे यहाँ 50-60% होंगी. So the young may be asymptomatic, may even get a minor symptom, वो भूल गया, but he may bring it home and infect his parents, his grandparents. So we need to be very, very careful. We can't lower our guard just because कि हाँ जी हम तो 17,000 ही हैं, US से तो 7 लाख हो गया है, 8 लाख हो गया है, वहाँ तो रोज के 2,000 मर रहे हैं. That's highly unfortunate. But we don't want to be in that position. And if we are careless, this is a highly infectious disease. You know, so one person can infect 400 people in 30 days. And then you think those 400 will go on infecting and just see where the cycle ends. So our first case, even in the US, the first case was on, I think, 31st of January. Okay. And despite everything, see, we don't have a vaccine. We don't have a treatment. So, and, you know, there was this theory that our economy is very important. And, you know, if the economy dies, people will die. भूख से मर जाएंगे, इससे मर जाएंगे, ये हो जाएगा, country का क्या होगा, you know, world का क्या होगा. And so UK took this thing and made a strategy which is called herd immunity. आप सबने सुना है. सारे अब तो इंडिया में हर कोई epidemiologist तो बन ही गया. पूरा नहीं तो 90% तो हो ही गया. So herd immunity is when, you know, so many people in a population get infected over time that then person to person transmission का chance ही कम हो जाता है. That I've had the disease, he's had the disease, he's had the disease. So, you know, and for different infections, you need to have a different percentage of people in the entire population infected for you to have herd immunity. For COVID-19, we don't know. But generally, it is said 70% of the population needs to be infected to get that herd immunity. It may even be 100%. We don't know. For COVID-19, we don't know. So following this, theory, what did UK do? They said all those who are 60 and above, आप घरों में रहिए, ठीक है? And those younger, you live life like normal. Pubs were open, offices were open, transport was open, life like normal. And we will develop a herd immunity because youngsters are not getting very serious disease. थोड़ा बहुत आएगा, उससे होगा, community में herd immunity आ जाएगी. फिर हम जो elderly हैं उनको भी we let them out. This was and many people have advocated this. Even in India, when the lockdowns were happening, everything they're saying नहीं चलने दो, ऐसे क्या होगा, सब बंद हो जाएगा, ये हो जाएगा, वो हो जाएगा. What happened in England? And you know, because we were able to slow the entire upswing, we have been able to learn from what other countries did right or did wrong, so that we don't make the same mistakes. So what happened in England, many people got infected, and even the younger lot started getting serious ailments. Their hospital systems got overwhelmed in England. They've set up 3 new hospitals for COVID itself, and they are in a very, very bad position. And that's when they abandoned this herd immunity. And they are also in lockdown now. So we'll have a new normal. You know, you will not visit your friends' homes because you don't want to infect them or their parents, and you don't want to get infected because so many are asymptomatic. This asymptomatic makes it even tougher to socialize. So वो शादियां होंगी, 10 लोग होंगे, वो भी mask डाल के. This mask is going to continue, and mask helps in 2 ways. The major way, and this can be any kind of mask, okay? Once we get enough manufacture that, you know, healthcare workers have the mask and the general population can also get the mask, that is a separate matter. Abhi to shortage hai. So even, you know, any cloth which is not transparent can be used to make a mask. या 2 हैंकी लगा लो, कई जुगाड़ चले, हम तो कब से कर रहे हैं. हमारे तो वो दुपट्टा and you know वो पगड़ी की वो सब तो, you know, it's making a mask in India is hardly an issue. And those help in 2 ways. One, most important, that you will, if you are infected and if you are an asymptomatic carrier, you will not infect others. That is the major objective of this mask. A secondary objective is also that you will be protected. Okay? But if everyone is wearing a mask in an office, in a shop, then in any case, your chance of infecting someone becomes that much lesser. So a mask, wearing a mask, I think probably till December, तो हम सबको mask डालने ही पड़ेंगे, you know, to protect our friends, family, community at large. And this is a very important role that each of us as citizens of this country have to perform. Because many will never know they are infected and they will be infected.
Right.
तो हमने अपने आप को जितना बचाना है उससे अधिक हमने दूसरे को बचाना है.
Right.
Okay. And also hand hygiene. वो तो हमें, you know, since we were little kids, हमें मार पड़ती थी, हाथ धो के आओ. So we have to do that. And also sanitizers where, you know, water is not available. sanitizers work with 70% plus alcohol. And one has to be careful with the sanitizer कि हाथ को आग भी लग सकती है. So
Right.
ladies working at home or when you're working in the lab and all that, it would be best that you use soap and water rather than sanitizer, because people have burnt their hands
Right.
with this. And about the economy, you're all well aware. Each and every sector is suffering. The hardest hit, I think, have been tourism, aviation. But the healthcare providers have been equally hard hit, as I'm sure are also the medtech.
Yes.
Because due to this pandemic and because the country went into lockdown and because everyone is so hesitant of getting the disease, the OPDs have been shut.
Right.
No elective surgeries are being done. And this is also as per a mandate of the government, order of the government. And only emergencies are being looked at. And so most hospital occupancy has come down to between 10 to 20%. Whereas your fixed costs are 70 to 80%.
Right.
They remain the same. So because of that, the healthcare industry also is devastated. And unfortunately, we've I'm also the co-chair of the healthcare committee of FICCI. And we brought out a FICCI EY document, which all of you should read, where we've given projections that what happens if only Q1 goes? What happens if Q2 also goes? Because medtech will be indirectly affected.
Right.
And you are in Italy, you are in so many other places. Wahan bhi zala, it's things are in bad shape.
Right.
So the healthcare industry, unfortunately, is in such bad economic shape, but cannot close down like the others. Cannot send people back home. Ki, your job's gone. Chalo ji, ho gaya, factory band. We have to be up and about and standing, not only for COVID, but now think 4 weeks have passed, patients haven't been able to come to hospital. It's not that they didn't fall sick. It's just that people are postponing. There's a limit to what they will be able to postpone. And so what happens? We have to stay open. And people will still be very hesitant. And many will die because of this also.
Right.
And also hospitals will be very hesitant. Because you don't know that this guy who's coming in for a routine thing, does he have COVID or not? So COVID testing will also increase over time. In fact, in many hospitals, they are mandating that before admitting a patient, we have to have a COVID test done.
COVID test, yes.
And we know that COVID test is also not absolute. It has about, RT-PCR, the test which you test from the nostrils.
Swabs, yes.
That is only about 67% accurate. About 30% false negative. So even if you do the test, the situation is very complex. Even if you've done a test and come negative, you may still be having it. People have had this come in the 4th test as positive. And it's not because the test was wrong or the test was done improperly. It's dependent on the viral load that is there.
Right.
See, from the nose, about 67% positive. From the throat, only 33% positive. So, and then there is, the antibody test, which is from blood, which will not be able to show whether you are infected or not, but will show whether you have been infected in the past or not by IgG and IgM.
Right.
We are waiting for that time when there will be a point of care cheap test. 500 रुपए में हो, 100 रुपए में हो, 50 रुपए में हो, आप लोग करो. you guys should look at developing, which a patient at home can do like a pregnancy test. And वो because अभी क्या है, जब सैंपल लेने कोई जाता है तो पूरा वो पीपीई डाल के जाता है कि
Right.
मुझे ना हो जाए, और फिर वो नॉस्ट्रल में डालता है. एंड अगर घर में ही होएगा चाहे तो he can do it himself.
Right.
So no PPE needed, nothing needed. You don't get infected. You don't infect someone else. And there is some work being done in different parts of the world on developing this test. And this will be an antigen test, again, from the nostril. And also, IGIB in Delhi, the Institute of Genomics and, biology, claims to have developed something like this. And we hope. So let me ask you a question, Manish.
So,
Suppose they want someone to start developing this test on a commercial basis,
so
manufacturing it. Would you guys be interested?
sure, why not? So happy to help if we could.
Help nahi hai.
What I mean is happy to collaborate if we could.
Yes. This will be, I mean, this is not, everything can't be done, for free.
Yes, please. Happy to collaborate. So look forward. Yeah.
And do you think you would have the capability?
Oh,
I don't know what it involves.
yeah. So I think we have the capability, the capacity, capability to develop.
And you have your manufacturing here near Delhi,
Yes, we have our manufacturing near Delhi in Faridabad. So
Faridabad.
good. Hanji.
In fact, IGIB is at the border of Faridabad.
Okay. Even our R&D and everybody sits in the same place.
Fantastic. Because we also do work in genomics.
Right.
So let's see. Pehle to, it has to be proved. It may
Right.
not be just hype only.
Right.
So, but I'm sure that is where it'll head, where it becomes cheap, doing it your own self, and accurate.
Right.
And economically, I think we are going to face tough times. Many hospitals have already cut salaries by 50%. पैसे ही नहीं है.
Ji.
Banks don't lend you. And
Right.
you are not going to borrow at 15%. Then फिर तो बंद ही हो जाएगा.
Right.
So workers and doctors themselves are realizing that if the institution only shuts down, तो फिर तो कुछ ही नहीं रहेगा.
Right.
So we are in for frugal times.
Right.
We are in for, looking at holding on to cash. We are in for not any extravagant spending.
Right.
In any case, आप holiday पे नहीं जा पाओगे, वहां से ना मिल जाए.
Right.
बाहर नहीं जा पाओगे. Travel आप अपना reduce करोगे. Work from home करोगे. All these things also contribute. Restaurants आप नहीं जाओगे.
Right.
So all these things also contribute to lowering your day-to-day expenses.
Right.
But I'm sure everyone is already thinking of this. But if you're not, cash is king. पैसे होंगे नहीं.
Right.
There'll be no money.
Right.
It's going to be tough times.
Right.
And we should be ready for it. And I think the promoters will need a lot of help from the employees.
Right.
Because everyone has to be together.
Yes.
And only then can you win it. Because ये अब 6 महीने चलेगा, 9 महीने चलेगा, साल चलेगा, in this manner, we don't know.
We don't know.
Definitely, Corona is not going away by 2021.
Right.
2 साल तो कहीं नहीं गए. Vaccine बन जाएगी, vaccinate हो जाएंगे. How effective those vaccines will be, all that. But ultimately, we do need to develop herd immunity.
Right.
Herd immunity either वो slowly 2-3 साल में develop हो कि धीरे यहाँ vaccine आ जाए और उसके through develop हो जाए. That will be needed.
Right.
And So apart from that, I would say it is also a time for bonding. It is a time for us to look back. I think हर घर में पिछले महीने में स्टोर साफ हुए, ठीक है?
Right.
And you realize what wasteful expense
Yes.
was done. I think everyone has found things in the store जो कि भूल ही गए खरीद के. नई नई चीजें पड़ी हुई हैं, खरीदने का शौक है. So all those, I think there will have to be a mindset change.
Right.
And also, I think if we realize that, what the earth has to give us is finite. It's not infinite. And that ultimately, अभी सब कुछ हरा भरा हो गया है, तारे दिख रहे हैं दिल्ली में. We are reminded of our childhood days.
Right.
When, you looked up and the sky used to be full of stars. And as when we were in our 10th or 11th, I studied at DPS Mathura Road. And we used to even at times cycle to school from Safdarjung Enclave to, Mathura Road. Sports hona to you cycle to school. I mean, those were wonderful days. And I think this is also time for us on a philosophical note to realize that, बहुत की भी इंतहा हो गई है.
जी.
अपने wants, अपने desires, अपने, greed को भी हमें कुछ अंकुश में रखना है. We do need to, keep some kind of control over our desires. And, I quote Mr. Jack Welch. I've known him very well. We just lost him recently.
Yes.
A legend in his own time, the chairman of GE, born a train engine driver's son and became the chairman of GE and legendary chairman of GE. Two things he said. He said many things, but two which I've used in my life. One, he said, ठीक है जी, change before you have to.
Right.
And अब ये pandemic ने दिखा दिया कि भैया now you have to change.
You have to change.
Okay. So if we can follow this in the future and change ourselves to mold ourselves to the new normal, to the new environment, whether it is business, at home, at work, we would be much better off. And the other thing, he said, is control your destiny or someone else will. Okay, so for the medtech industry, this is a golden opportunity. We have to realize that we can make everything here, right from the raw products to the finished product. Just because China में सस्ता मिल रहा है क्योंकि उनकी गवर्नमेंट साला सब सब्सिडाइज कर देती है, यहाँ से लें, वहाँ से लें. Today we realize that all those things which we were having ancillary units here, we are able to manufacture them. Otherwise, everything is coming from somewhere or the other in the world.
Right.
So we have to control our destiny. Or China, US, Germany, Italy, France, God knows, Australia, Pakistan to kar hi raha hai hamari destiny control. So, and I'd like to end, and I would like to say that it's been a pleasure talking. And if anyone has any questions, specific, non-specific, business, medical, spiritual, I would love to answer. I
Dr.
leave you with this. I leave you with this. You know, पता नहीं किसने लिखा है, पर you know, I followed it, and I would say everyone should follow it. मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं, मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, मंजिलें उन्हीं को मिलती हैं जिनके सपनों में जान होती है, पंख से कुछ नहीं होता, हौसलों से उड़ान होती है.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice, sir. Thank you. Thank you
very
very much. Let me give you a background, sir. We are total almost 300 of us, and presently we have 100 plus who are listening to you. And there are many of us who were in the queue who couldn't join because the capacity of Zoom is not more than 100.
Oh, is it?
But what we will do is we are recording this, and
Okay.
with due permission, we
Oh,
will.
send it to me also.
Okay, we will send it to you
Because-
also. So nice. of
Because
you.
I never know what I'm talking.
No, you have. Trust me, sir. I've heard you before. Also, I have interacted with you a number of times. But today I heard another side of you. Very nice to see not only the jokes from you, but also the word of wisdom coming out of you. So thank you for sharing your thoughts, sharing your
So much. Thank you.
opinions.